Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday. We have an amazing show for everybody today. What do we have, Crystal?
Indeed, we do. We got a bit of a healthcare focus today. Jimmy Dore is going to be on. Been a while since we've had him. It was a great interview. He's going to talk about how progressives could force a vote on Medicare for all. We'll see if they take his advice. We also have David Sirota on talking about the other side of that the Democrats who've sold out to lobby against even a public option in terms of healthcare. Great panel. You got Gabby Orr and Andrew Feldman. Lots to get into with them. But we wanted to start this morning with the state of the stimulus negotiations.
Yeah, that's right. So a little bit of hope yesterday on Capitol Hill. There's a lot of different consternation. So there's a couple things going on. Of course, we've talked here about the stimulus negotiations. There's also a government shutdown, which is looming, and they need to come to a deal like today. At some point. Yeah. We'll see if that happens. It's going to be one of those annoying 2 a.m. votes where they pass it, maybe punt it for another month or so, something like that. So
what's on the table right now is a week extension. Yeah. So we might get through another week with on a shutdown.
All right, yeah. I mean, this is what they always do, right? They do a week shut thing, and then they punt it for another week, and then eventually they'll kick it to the next administration. The original idea was maybe even tying some stimulus aid to the shutdown negotiations. I'm not going to hold my breath on that, but it's very possible that something could break there. However, what we wanted to highlight for all of you was a very positive development, which is a new collaboration between Senator Josh Hawley and Senator Bernie Sanders coming together, introducing stand-alone legislation demanding an up or down vote on stimulus checks of $1,200 for Americans. They both spoke yesterday on the Senate floor. Let's take a listen.
We are working on bipartisan legislation, and Senator Hawley has done a very, very good job on this, and proud to yield the floor to him.
President.
Senator from Missouri.
I'm delighted to join with Senator Sanders in this important legislation. It's very simple legislation, and this is, to my mind, a very simple proposition. Here's the proposition: that when it comes to COVID relief in the midst of this crisis, working families and working people should be first to get relief, not last. Their interests, their needs should be first on our to-do list, not last. Now, I've heard some of my colleagues say that there just isn't enough left for working families, that once we take care of our other priorities in COVID relief, there just isn't enough left to give direct assistance to individuals. I want to respectfully suggest that those priorities are exactly reversed. We should begin with the working people of this country.
So there you go. I mean, I don't see anything particularly controversial in anything he just said, but let me assure you that he is hated. Both of those men are hated both all across Capitol Hill, probably by their own parties, being like, why are you holding up all this Paycheck Protection Program aid and more? And I'm not against Paycheck Protection Program or any of the aid or unemployment insurance, but if you're going to have a large package bill, shouldn't it be at least something to everyday people? Like I said, unemployment insurance, obviously for the most needy Americans. Paycheck Protection Program, small businesses care a lot about those things. But average, everyday, Americans have been through hell, and they deserve something. Just something, anything, a token of appreciation from their government, and especially having been locked in their house now for 10 months. Now we're having lockdowns all across Pennsylvania just yesterday, California, stay-at-home orders, indoor dining shutting across the country. There needs to be
people
something.
Dying a day. It's a
maybe
disaster.
Even more at this point. And we have got to have something that's passing. So it's very heartening to see these two men actually do something about it.
Yeah, and look, I've expressed, some of the disappointments for me in Senator Hawley, things like, supporting right to work, things like voting for Trump's corporate tax cuts. But you have to give him credit here, because he is going to get so much crap from his own party, who he has the courage to stand up there and say, listen, my colleagues are putting businesses before working class people, and that's insane. That takes legitimate courage to do that, because he is going to get hit from all sides and get very little gratitude and very little appreciation for going out and working with the scary socialist Bernie Sanders. And Bernie will get plenty of crap from his own side about, enabling fascism and daring to work across the aisle. So look, is this going to result in $1,200 checks going out to all of you as it should? No, it's not. And that is a damn shame, and it's an embarrassment, and it's just national humiliation that these people in this town cannot get their act together to do even the basics of providing for the people during this incredibly difficult time. But why does this matter, and why does this give us some hope? We've never seen, I mean, it's really, I was trying yesterday to think of, it's really hard to think of an actual bipartisan collaboration of this type, of well-known members of the Senate, on something that will actually deliver directly for working class people. I mean, as you all know, because we talk about it on the show all the time, almost always when you're talking about bipartisanship, it's like, let's have a new war, let's have a new corporate tax cut, let's have a new bad trade deal. To actually have this kind of economic populist collaboration, it's a tiny green shoot of hope that I hope serves as a model for how you could have more heterodox crossover on issues that would actually be a benefit to people. It's the very early blossoming of something, and I can only hope that we all encourage it so that we can see more collaborations in this direction.
We should do everything we can to encourage it, because politicians respond to incentives. All politicians, whether they're legit or not. And in the past, what you said was the key. There have been some collaboration, so to speak, largely between libertarians and progressives on foreign policy. And yeah, I mean, that's good. You know, Yemen and Saudi and things like that. I think that's fantastic. Or, you know, Rand Paul and Bernie on like Afghanistan. But this is the one that's actually delivering something for people, if it were to actually pass. Don't want to give anybody false hope. I don't think that that is actually going to happen. And the reason why is because this is still what these people are up against. Let's throw this Politico tear sheet up there on the screen. You can see, this is some latest reporting there, that these people do not really want to do anything. Within that story, it's actually embedded about how the Senate Republicans are basically saying that, yeah, even that $900 billion compromise version, that's not going to work for us. And so at what point is anything going to work for anybody? And so, look, Mitch McConnell even said we can put state and local aside and corporate liability, pass the Paycheck Protection Program, and I actually think that's an opening in order to get checks, because you could force a checks debate into something like that. And with unemployment insurance. But now Chuck Schumer shoots that down. They're sticking themselves to this bipartisan, you know, neolib 908 bill. And again, you know, I think it's fine. I don't think it's particularly great. But then that's too much for the Senate Republicans. So, okay, nothing is passing. Like, nothing has any sort of compromise on it whatsoever. Nobody, literally, there is not one area, I think, beyond the Paycheck Protection Program where anybody can agree. And because these people are like demons, they won't even just stand alone past that, because that's something that they agree upon. There's no up or down votes on these individual parts, because no senator wants to put themselves in a place to vote against that stimulus check thing that Holly and Bernie are putting forward. So they're just going to use all the maneuvers in order to keep it off the floor.
That's exactly right. No, I mean, what this article lays out, which should be shocking to the conscience of the country, is that the Senate Republicans don't want to vote on this if it doesn't have their corporate liability shield. So McConnell offering, like, hey, how about you guys give up state and local aid and we'll give up corporate liability shield, which again I think is kind of disgusting, given that state budgets are something like $555 billion underwater. You're going to have mass layoffs. You're going to have cuts in public services. But okay, even that trade-off, the Senate Republicans are like, nope, sorry. We got to make sure that we give our donors and our corporate interests what they're really pushing us for. That's their number one priority, which is why Holly's comments land so brutally, because you literally see here in real time the number one thing that they're prioritizing over checks, over small businesses, over unemployment insurance, over anything is the corporate liability shield. And that is just absolutely grotesque. So the one area where individuals like two senators, Holly and Bernie, can make a difference is actually with this shutdown in play, because the Senate really needs unanimous consent in order, given the timeline, to avoid this shutdown. Rand Paul is already indicating he may hold it up over concerns of the military budget and the Defense Act. And Bernie and Holly had indicated before that they may hold it up also over not getting a vote on the checks. Now, they both seem to have backed away from that a little bit and said, look, we may allow a week to pass so that we don't have a government shutdown this week, but it then has to come back up next week. So they do have a little bit of leverage there, but that's essentially the state of play today. negotiations have effectively broken down. Unclear what's going to happen with the government shutdown, and very unlikely that we're going to get much of anything at this point.
It's so hard to tell this story because it's more convenient when you have one villain. What do you do when you have 98
when
villains?
you have all
right?
villains?
Yeah. 98 villains in the U.S. Senate, excepting these two gentlemen who are working for something along with the President of the United States and along with the President-elect of the United States. What do you do whenever all these people are not working to do anything? But I can't think of actually a better metaphor for how broken our political system is. And I was thinking, in the past, whenever we would talk about, what are the examples we would point to? Iraq and the shutdown. I mean, and the bailouts of 2008.
Right.
From now on, this is going to be it for me. I'm going to be like, this moment, this 10-month moment, accepting the executive branch and all the screw-ups there, like the failure of Washington to do anything on stimulus, we should study this for decades about how terrible everybody showed up. And what are the stakes for people? Crystal found this. Let's throw this Washington Post story up there on the screen, which is we are seeing an increase in low-impact crime, people stealing consumables and items associated with children and babies. So people are so broke that they're having to steal diapers from the grocery store. Now, diapers are already one of the most shoplifted items. There's an entire insane thing around childcare industrial complex and what we charge people for and don't give them help. I could do an entire segment on that.
Yeah.
But this is a tiny barometer for what are average people doing right now. They're having to lift diapers because they need to care for their kids. Maybe they're on unemployment. Maybe, stimulus. Maybe they have a meager job, but that $1,200, it would mean a lot, right?
And you read this story, and this reporter does a phenomenal job, and you should all follow her. She's the Washington Post retail reporter. She interviews some of the people who admit to her that these are not criminals, right? These are regular people who are just starving. Like, they do not have enough to eat. They have children that they have to worry about and feed too. So they talk about, slipping some ground beef into the stroller while they're going through Walmart, just doing these little things to be able to survive. And that, in the richest country on the planet, that you've left people with no other option but to have to resort to petty shoplifting in order to have basics like diapers, formula, ground beef, and enough to eat on the table is a national embarrassment, and it is absolutely insane and disgusting. Here are the numbers. This is Jeff Stein tweeted this out. 26 million Americans are going hungry. That's as much as 3 to 4 times as many as before the pandemic. 1 in 8 Americans report not having enough food to eat over the last week. That's the reality for people in this country. And it's because of one thing, the failures in this town. And you are so right. Every time we call out Nancy Pelosi or we call out the Senate Republicans, we get hit with all this well, what about Trump? Well, what about Pelosi? Why did you? No, trust me, guys. We blame them all, 100%. As far as I can tell, there are about 2 people in the Senate who deserve any credit at this point, and that is Josh Hawley and Bernie Sanders. We've seen some support in the House as well. I have to say, Ilhan Omar tweeting out positive things about Josh Hawley is
kind of hurts the cause.
Not something that you see every day, but something that, it's incredible to see a few people who are willing to stick their necks out and buck their party leadership and buck this insanity that you shouldn't be working with people who have a different ideological persuasion on you on things that will benefit working class people. So that's the little tiny positive piece, but in terms of where the overall stimulus negotiations are, it is a very, very grim field in front of us.
That's right. All right, we're going to keep you guys updated on all of this, but don't be too optimistic, but something is happening, so that's better than nothing.
Yeah, we will always keep you updated, and we'll have more Rising for you after this.